I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I am Andrew DeWolf.
And I'm Brianna Jones.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew and Brie to like musical theater. And today, we have one of our favorite guests back with us.
Ooh, one back again? Oh, man.
Guess who's back?
That's a good impression.
Back again.
It's me, Princess!
From so many wonderful things, it's Princess Weeks. We love you, and you knocked out of the park with our final episode of 2020. We had to bring you back for 2021, and we're so happy to have you here today.
It feels so good to be back. That was one of the best experiences I ever had podcasting, and I was like, we may never end if we don't stop it. It was like, we could literally talk all night. We need to stop.
I felt the same way, and we've been so excited to have you back on the show that literally last week when we were recording, Brianna's like, we don't have Princess on this week. Oh no.
I missed you too, Brianna. I was like, I can't wait to see my favorite cheese gang all together again as we talk about one of my favorite movies and my number one example of why getting someone else to sing who can actually sing is good, actually.
Wait, really?
With that lead in, I love it. This week we are talking about Carmen Jones. Cue the music, Bree.
You go for me and I'm taboo, but if you're hard to get, I go for you. And if I do, then you are through, boy. My baby, that's the end of you. So take your cue, boy. Don't say I didn't tell you true. I told you truly, if I love you, that's the end of you. Go for me and I'm taboo, but if you're hard to get, I go for you.
All right. Carmen Jones is a musical with music by George Bizet from his opera Carmen, lyrics and book by Oscar Hammerstein II, based on George Bizet's Carmen. It premiered on Broadway December 2nd, 1943 at the Broadway Theater, which was just what they called it back then, running for 503 performances and closed on December 5th, 1945. It was adapted into a 1954 film of the same name, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about today because it's great, and from what I gather, the Broadway show wasn't representative of what the film was going to be. Basically, when the director saw it on stage, he dismissed it as a bunch of skits based on opera, and he didn't like it, so he simplified it and made the film as it is today. And this film is the tale of a cigarette maker, Carmen, and the Spanish... Oh my God, what is going on here?
That's Carmen.
That's the OG.
That's Carmen.
No, that's actually Carmen Jones, the Broadway version.
Oh, well, I guess they kept close to the musical in that way.
Yes, they kept very close to the musical in that way. But this is just basically about Carmen and Joe, getting together, breaking apart, military prison, a lot of fun stuff. Princess, I want to know your history with Carmen Jones. Let's dive into it.
Well, I, of course, my mother is from Jamaica, so we all knew Harry Belafonte. And I think when we talk about Black Hollywood and the missed opportunities in the Oscars, Dorothy Dandridge comes up all the time because, as many people may not know, she's the first woman of African descent to ever be nominated for Best Actress. And as of 2021, the only woman of color to ever win Best Actress is still Halle Berry. And Halle Berry actually played Dorothy Dandridge in Becoming Dorothy Dandridge, an HBO docu-movie about the figure. So I've always really been attracted to the movie, and I finally decided to watch it when a friend of mine was actually watching it on the train. She had bought a DVD player, a portable old school DVD player, and she was like, I don't get Wi-Fi, but I can just get DVDs from the library, put them in my portable DVD player, and watch them on the train. No worry about Wi-Fi, no worry about disconnected services. And so we were just on the 4 train watching Carmen Jones together, and I was like, I gotta watch this again. And I bought it on Blu-ray, and I just thought, wow, these two actors have chemistry. At every moment, I'm like, wow, were they effing? Were they boinking? I need to know. So yeah, my history was this is brilliant, but also very horny.
Yeah. How old were you when? when you first watched it? Just like
Well, the first time I watched it, I was in my 20s, so I was
Okay.
it was appropriate horny understanding.
Appropriate horny
but
age.
yeah,
Because I'm going to tell you the story of how I first watched Carmen Jones, and less horny, but still very horny. So as a kid,
How much horny's going on here, Jess?
enough that I can bring it up. So I don't know. We're all 90s kids. Do we remember the episode of Hey Arnold where it was like
I was going to
Carmen?
bring that up in this episode, Jess. How dare you steal my bit? How dare you steal my bit?
But
Continue.
I loved it, and I would just hum those fucking songs all day long. And my grandmother, like the oldest, whitest lady you've ever seen, like calls me up after hearing me sing these. I'm like, turn on Turner Classic Movies. Carmen is on, and I turn it on, and I'm like, oh, this isn't in the language I expected it to be. And I sat down and watched it, and just the scene where Harry Belafonte is like blowing on her toes, I'm like, that was an awakening for me in like 45 different ways. Like, I did not watch that film again for another like 15 years, and that image stuck with me. And then, of course, when I'm like getting into musical theater and all that, I'm like, Oscar Hammerstein, gotta dive into him. And rewatching it, it is an incredible, incredible film. And a financially successful one, like a big, big musical, and all the orchestrations sell. It is a flippin' incredible movie.
Yeah, like it is literally the Library of Congress was like, you know what, we're gonna keep this forever because we think it's aesthetically significant, and I agree. And the Hey Arnold episode is definitely one of those like fun things that like it got me into opera, it got me into Carmen. So I love that synergy between us, just you and me.
I feel like I was
watch
the only
Hey
one that
Arnold.
remembered that episode, like, because I bring that up occasionally. They're like, what? That never happened? And I'm like, yes, it did. I can.
It's left an
Everybody
impact
else is
on my
watching
soul.
Doug.
You're too busy watching Doug. Well, Andrew, then you just watched this like yesterday. What, as someone diving into it just now, what is your thoughts on it?
I mean, I've never seen Carmen, so I think this is just as good as the opera. If not better.
Hot take.
Hot take. But literally, also, like, I saw it as a kid, didn't know who any of these actors are. Watching it as I got older, there was every single character from, like, the A-listers to, like, everyone is someone. Like, Diane Carroll's just a B-roll. Pearl Bailey knocks out of the park, and the only one that used her real voice. Like, my God, everyone in here is acting their ass off and knocking it out of the park. This is a tour de force cast delivering beautifully. And the voices of the dubbers did very well, but also part of me is like, man, I miss Harry Belafonte's voice though.
Well, it's interesting because the history of that is like, they could both sing,
Yes.
but they couldn't sing opera, and they really wanted that to be part of the thing. So they actually got a black opera singer, Marilyn Horne, to do it, and it works really well. I think I think they perform it really well, and honestly, I would rather, having lived through so many terrible singers who can't really sing, trying to be in movie musicals, I would much rather have a very competent dubber come in and just do the singing.
I feel like
and
it'd
have
be
someone
even
else
worse,
act.
even worse in an opera than it is in like music theater.
Oh yeah.
Exactly, because like
you do an opera,
it's a whole
and you
different
get
sound.
Hugh Jackman up there, and it's like, oh no,
No, Hugh Jackman, don't try it.
don't try it.
But funny you bring that up. You know who was originally Carmen, offered the role, cast, and everything, and then rejected when they wouldn't let her use her real voice? Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt was...
Ooh.
But part of me is like, I could still see her pulling off, like, singing these opera songs in her own voice. Like, especially, like, the habanera equivalent in here. Like, yeah, she would have knocked that out, but they made the right choice. They stuck with their guns, and they got, like, an incredible performance of Dorothy Danton.
Yeah, and I think a movie like this was such a big deal because it was like one of, if not the first, all blacks movies like this made for like a mainstream audience. And it was such a risky picture. Like Otto Preminger, who was the director, who's also having an affair with Dorothy Dandridge at the time. R.I.P. for her, because gross. Like he really stuck to his guns about trying to get a performer. She really fought for it because she was not the top pick, because she had just been a very like Chitlin circuit, you know, backstage playing every like overly tan black savage. And I think like she was in a Tarzan movie beforehand. She was like one of the queens of the jungle in a Tarzan movie, and they were like, oh no, you cannot do this. So she really fought for this role, and I think it shows, and I think she definitely earned that nomination.
I agree, and it's incredible. Like, she is this movie, as strange as that is. It is all on her back, and as adorable as Harry Belafonte is in here, he's just the idiot guy strolling around through the world. She's the one with like agency, like story progression. Like I as the ending is what it is, but she is the one with agency all the way up until that, and makes all the choices, and is a wily stinker in a way. I love that she's kind of like a go-getter.
Yeah, I mean, to just get to the music real quick, I love the song, like, Death, Love, Habanera, because she's just like, I like this guy because he's not paying any attention to me, and he kind of treats me like shit, and I'm like, but that makes me wet, so I'm going to go after him. And I was like, that's legend shit right there. I was like, what I tell people that certain old Hollywood movies are good, like, ooh, I need a cigarette movie, because it just gives you like very like smoky, on your patio, smoking a cigarette and drinking like a scotch vibes. And this is very much a movie where you're like, oh yeah, we should be smoking right now as we watch this movie, because it's just very atmospheric and weighty. And then Carmen is just such a vixen, but also very wholesome. Like, they do a very good job of balancing out her being a sexual object to many, while also like owning that in her own skin, which I think is one of the masterful things about how Preminger directs her in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read like James Baldwin's critique of Carmen Jones in like his essay Notes on a Native Son?
I am familiar with it, but I have not read it. My Baldwin knowledge is unfortunately limited to mostly his fictional work, but I do know that there was a lot of discussion about sort of the colorism aspects, and I know that he said that it was sort of like wasn't authentic of real Black American speech, and that it didn't really fit a reality of Black life, and I understand that critique, but I don't think it's a thing that could ever do that, because Carmen isn't inherently a Black text. Like, you're just kind of taking it and reworking it to a different perspective. But I think that sometimes it works to have a story like this that isn't very much trying to be simply about the Black trauma. I think then compared to now, it's very different, because I think then every Black major feature was such a big cultural touchstone. Everyone was like, we need this to do well because they'll never make another one again. Where I think now a Carmen Jones would just be like, oh, it's really nice to have like an adaptation of an opera that just focuses on Black people and like shows them having fun and having a good time and being like all the different tropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know at the time, like, when you did have Black people in movies, they were always like framed as these guys that were in there to save the day, and like these faultless, like, it became a trope in and of itself. So seeing these people live their lives, have faults, and be human beings, for me, just in this time, it's incredible. And also just like in a time before like musical theater existed at all, like Oklahoma is not for a couple years yet. So like this in and of itself is a brilliant musical on film.
Yeah.
For sure. And it won the Golden Globe. And, you know, it did supremely well. I mean, infamously, like Dorothy Dandridge was up against Judy Garland in A Star is Born, and then they both lost to effing Grace Kelly in The Country Girl. So like that was like, you know, like she was up against like really big contenders. And I think that I think the role of the Black academic is always going to be different from the Black audience critic, the black audience that is looking for a sense of escapism, whereas like a Black critic like Baldwin was looking for something that was being lauded as so important to be more weighty. And I think that's a valid feeling for him and what he does. But I think as an observer and as someone looking back in time, I definitely appreciate the sort of way that Black joy and Black fun and Black love is very much at the forefront of the film, and that nothing feels like there's no trauma porn to it. Like, there are people have struggles, and you know that them being Black is a part of it, but you're not like waiting for something terrible to happen because they're Black. It's just kind of like things are going to happen badly because it's an opera, and that's just the way they go.
Yeah.
You just summed up my entire emotion of this, my conflicting like feelings about this so succinctly there, where it's like, yeah, there is violence, yeah, there's things, but also it's not because of like the trauma of the real world. It is because of the trauma of opera.
Right. And I think in that sense, it's a super success. And I think that, and we still don't have a Black musical like this besides like The Wiz. I think The Wiz is like the closest we had to that, but even that's different as a cultural nexus, because I think the film is also more impactful to a lot of people. And it was a commercial failure, and it led to a lot of backlashes towards sort of Blaxploitation and African American films. So in comparison, Carmen Jones is like a very successful film that should have led to a lot of really impressive things for a lot of Black actors, but it really didn't.
I agree. And there's yet to be a successful revival of this musical, like on Broadway, despite it being a very successful Broadway show, and even more successful film, very alive in the consciousness of like people our age. Like people talk about Carmen Jones all the time. So why the fuck do we get another Carousel adaptation, a revival of Carousel, and no one's like even touching Carmen Jones, which is like this incredible
Is it just
piece.
because it's an opera?
Maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't even say, because I would think that like after Les Mis, I feel like anything could have gotten made, because I feel like that monstrosity was like the movie, not the musical itself. I felt like after that and Cats, and like I'm hoping that with Into the Heights, depending on how that is, maybe we could get a Carmen Jones coming up next. I think there is more room for something like Carmen Jones, but I think it's because to revisit Carmen Jones means revisiting like a very toxic part of how Hollywood treated Black actresses, because then you have to acknowledge like, well, if Dorothy Dandridge was like the first Black actress to ever be nominated for an Oscar, was in this super successful musical that made so much money, why did her career go directly in the toilet like less than 3 years later? And that makes it more uncomfortable to revive something like Oklahoma, where it's like we can put Black people in it, and that means it's cool now. Whereas, that's how they do everything now. It's like we'll make it diverse, and therefore we won't talk about any of the other underlined issues with theater.
Yeah, just sweep it under the rug like we do everything else. Problem solved.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree. Like, I just think about Dorothy Dandridge, and I'm like, man, there's just so many connections with like her and like a Marilyn Monroe, where Marilyn Monroe just like skyrocketed and died like early, and then she just kind of had that big success and then died so young, 42. Like, my God.
And they're contemporaries in a lot of ways, and I think that both of them really were pigeonholed by being sex symbols, and with Dorothy Dandridge more so because of what was going on in Hollywood with the Hays Code. She couldn't play opposite. So the Hays Code, for those who might be unfamiliar, was this code of conduct that films had to operate under. And one of them was that they couldn't show miscegenation, which was like the mixing of the races. So like even if you had something like The Good Earth, which takes place in China, you couldn't cast an Asian actress in that role, in a lead role where she'd be a romantic lead, against a white man. So therefore, they both get it becomes like, yellow face. And so with Dorothy Dandridge, it's like, okay, for her to expand beyond like the the small Black theater circuit that she was operating in, she would have to play opposite non-Black leads. But she just was not given the opportunity to do so because it wasn't allowed. So she could only be with, Sidney Poitier or Harry Belafonte, and she was like 4 different times. But that was it. Those were the only leading men she could ever be next to. And then it stopped her from becoming like an Ava Gardner, who was like one of her contemporaries and could have done the same things that she was doing.
Jeez, that's depressing.
It is, but also like her legacy is like so incredible. Like, and I feel like outside of like the musical theater circles, like that are really, really deep into it, not many folks know her name. Like movie fans, I doubt even know her name. Like big ones, like I doubt anyone's gonna throw her name around as much as like say Pearl Bailey, even, who is like in this film with her.
Yeah, I think more people might know Lena Horne, and I think it's really been the work of Halle Berry, and becoming Halle Berry, finally becoming available on HBO Max, because it came out in like the early 90s, I believe, and she actually won a Golden Globe for playing Dorothy Dandridge in that movie, but it was never available to watch until HBO Max. And I'm just like, but it's an HBO thing, and they never released it for sort of mass marketed consumption. And when I finally watched it, I was like, Halle Berry's an amazing actress, but still the same issues perpetuate, because like when you think about it, her and Charlize Theron are like 2 actresses who came from like the beauty circuit, very attractive, won Oscars for sort of like, the usual, I made myself, different than my usual thing. And Charlize has gone on to do rom-coms, action films, everything. And then like as soon as Halle Berry wins her Oscar, it's like Catwoman, X-Men, and then like ... and like a few little middling things, because she's never in romantic comedies. She's never, like, besides Catwoman, and then when she was finally in John Wick, she's rarely in action films.
I mean, she had her stunt in X-Men as well.
Yeah, but even those were like, but those X-Men movies are not doing her any justice, or Storm. So it's like, it's a very middling career for someone who is such a prolific Black actress. And so even in that, we see the legacy of Dorothy Dandridge of like, you can reach the highest alleged peak, but you'll still never be seen in the same way as some of your white peers, which is deeply disappointing.
100%.
Yeah, of course.
My God. All right.
Sorry for bringing it down on the pod. I know.
No,
Sorry.
You're not bringing it down. You're bringing like truth to light, which I kind of love, and we don't do quite enough on this show. But also, I kind of want to just talk about some of the elements of this movie that work really well, and some of the ones that don't work as well. Specifically, I want to talk about Oscar Hammerstein's language usage for the way he wrote the lyrics, which they sound great and they perform them great, but if you read them in front of your eyes, it's like, oh yikes, a white man wrote this.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the song titles and everything starts with a D for some reason.
That's love, does flower, beat that rhythm on the drum. I mean, it's hard for me to like. I also have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, this is white speak, Black speak. And yeah, because the screenplay is by like a white Russian guy, so like there is absolutely no sort of.
Is this hateful, or was he trying to do something?
I think he was ignorant, not hateful.
Yeah, and I think that in a lot of ways that kind of language it's like hard to discuss, because I don't want to sort of ghettoize it and say like there's something inherently wrong with using sort of like what you think colloquial speak sounds like. Yeah. Especially because I think of the work of Zora Neale Hurston, who was very much about making sure that kind of language was a part of how we would read Black people speak, and Alice Walker does that too in The Color Purple. Yes. It just lacks a certain amount of authenticity because they don't really talk like that. They just kind of sing like that. Like, I feel like there is kind of like a disconnect between those two things, and I'm like, they could just, they don't have, everything doesn't need to be like a contraction, but I do enjoy it. I like the problematic part of my brain is like, but I really think it vibes. It's a bop, so it's like.
Maybe they should just do it where they talk that way as well and have it be a cultural thing. Although that might have been worse. I'm not really sure what they could have done with it.
You know what I say? Like, bring in a new lyricist. Hypothetical. And all four of us, we're all gonna revive it right now. We bring in a black lyricist to come in there, alter the lyrics, fix them up, modernize it, make it all kind of consistent with each other and with itself. And let's not forget that this specific dialect was written for the Broadway version, and then they adapted it into a film and changed it all together, but kept the same lyrics. So that might be an element to it, like 4 degrees of separation as well.
For sure, because even I'm looking at the lyrics for Dad's Love, I'm like, it could just be that.
Yeah.
You know, it could easily just.
I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. It's just where it's coming from, and I'm not sure if it's out of, like, contempt for it or if it's out of love, or I don't know, you know?
I definitely don't think it's contempt. I just think it's sort of like when you are trying to capture a dialect that is not your own, it can be very like cringe. It's like a soft cringe more than like hateful. It's like yeah, and it like that an attempt was made, one of those stars thing. Like I will say when you brought it up, Jess, I was thinking, you know, I allowed myself to forget that because I was so engrossed in the performances that it isn't something that just kind of slaps me on the face, which I think is a good sign of how it comes together as a project, is that the actors are able to perform it authentically, even with the dubbing, because I feel like you see Dorothy Dandridge's neck muscles and it's like she's doing something. She may not be singing it, but she is lip syncing as best she can.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with any of that. So I think it's time for us to move on to one of our favorite sections. This is going to be a slight truncated version where I think we're just going to summarize a little bit of what James Baldwin's essay was. So we're really just going to dive into that a little bit and see that. Originally, we were going to look at some New York Times reviews from the time, but they're just kind of cringe. Not going to lie. It's a lot of
old white men.
A lot
giving
of old
their reviews,
pearl clutching for things they don't represent. It's really weird, and I'm like,
it's very weird. And there's words that probably we shouldn't be reading.
Yeah, I was just kind of putting in there like, wow, look at this, but my God.
A lot of uncomfortable boners are being exposed in those reviews, I'm sure. Just kind of like her swarthy, dusky. Those are my favorite, antiquated terms for, black women that people find attractive. It's like, her dusky skin. I'm like, whose skin is dusky?
I think the specific phrase right here that I think I could spit out is Dorothy Dandridge, a slinky, hip-swinging, main-drag beauty with a slangy come-hither way with men.
Ew.
Yeah.
Such a horny review.
It is, but also he says hella problematic. Okay, just so we can point fingers. This is Bosley Crowther from the New York Times. Literally the second paragraph of his review says, crowded with more black talent than you could catch at a Saturday night at the Harlem Apollo.
Oh God.
Oh my. Yeah, the second paragraph, he didn't even. It's just, they didn't get it. I feel like they just didn't get it.
Well, how did the New York Times have consistently terrible reviews for the past, 80 years?
That is
possible. 2 things. Men.
And what?
And white man.
My Brianna
come
gets
on.
it.
I don't have this take.
And that's why you got a podcast that...
Yeah, that's why I don't write for the New York Times.
Yeah, that's why you'll never write for the New York Times.
There's something about the New York Times specifically. It's not white men. It's the New York Times.
I'm pretty sure it's a white man.
They find the worst of us.
They really do. And hey, positives. We have double the followers of Ben Brantley on Twitter, so we got there. We got that.
We
Kid.
did
That's
it.
all that matters.
Still, I'm pretty sure more people buy the New York Times than watch our
You know what?
But do they read it? You know, people
they
consume
really
and
read it?
enjoy your podcast. Who enjoys reading the New York Times? It's
White
like,
people.
oh, whites.
What?
What show should I see today? Let's see what Penn Brantley had to say.
Oh, he loves Tootsie. It looks like a hoot.
Tootsie, realistic. I've often wondered why women get it so easy in the...
Women just have it so easy in everything. Men should just dress up like them.
And take all the thousands of jobs they are getting, 100%.
God, Tootsie, I can't even believe that was on stage like 2 years ago.
Right? I was like, who still thinks that Tootsie is good?
A national
Tootsie
tour
is a
is
net
starting.
negative. Oh, no.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, they're rolling out a national tour next year.
Oh
Tootsie
my
is
God.
like an entire story of that terrible conservative take of like women have it so good. That's why transes exist.
It's like every single morality panic of like, you see what happens, women just get whatever they want. They just can get a job no matter what. And I'm like, oh, really? The only good thing to come out of Tootsie was Jessica Lange's Oscar. That's it. Good for her. But that's all it ever deserved. I don't like Tootsie at all.
Have you looked
It's
into
a
the
hoot.
musical at all?
It's a hoot.
Oh, God, is it?
No, it is god-awful garbage. It is literally Transphobia, the musical.
Oh, God, that does not surprise me. And
It was
also
a
scares
hoot.
me.
Like, literally, they gave up on advertising it and just put pictures of white people laughing as they're advertising. They're watching Tootsie.
They're
was
watching
their ads.
Tootsie.
Oh, my God.
I'm just saying, Broadway's got a problem and we gotta fix it. Do we
Well,
even
it's opening, so soon it'll have even more problems.
Oh, different problems. Oh my God, I am
Well,
not
that's
looking.
that's what Jess and I are here for. We're
Yeah, we're here
fix
to
it.
tear down all We're burning down Broadway, baby.
Burn it down, Broadway.
It's just us with gasoline.
I'll get the mollies. Let's burn it down, baby.
Let's listen to what James Baldwin's notes on Carmen Jones were. This is just a summary, and we're gonna have Bree read this really quick, if that's all right with you.
No, that's fine. Okay. A summary of James Baldwin's notes of A Native Son State. The film is devoid of white characters, which helps it become a vacuum in which the spectacle of color is divested of its danger. This, in turn, means that viewers can fill the movie with their own fantasy rather than reality. The speech of the characters borders on parody, and the set design also ring false to Baldwin, both of which he sees as condescending. He finds it difficult to reconcile that this opera has anything to do with the present-day struggles of African Americans while trying to maintain a sense of artist credibility. Because the translation of the story seems false, the actors themselves have little to work with in terms of motives and their characters.
I mean, it's there, but also, like, does he not want a fantasy for, like, black characters in movies? Like, that's kind of my question. Like, maybe that just wasn't some...
When did he write this?
I think it was, like, relatively contemporary with the film's release.
Okay, because I almost feel like there's room for both, but there probably wasn't much of the, like, more real style films back then.
And that was just a
'Cause they
quick
didn't want to
summary,
acknowledge
like
that.
an abstract of his longer piece. I read the full piece today, and it is very nuanced, very well written. I kind of get where he's coming from, and especially like of the time. But I feel like nowadays it's hard to comprehend how it was back then, to be honest.
I pulled up a summary of it to kind of read through it as well, just so I could have a more educated thing about it. And one thing I definitely agree with him is talking about colorism and how the lighter skinned actresses very much get plateaued to the surface. I think that is still a huge moment and a huge issue with with how Black people are presented, and you do have Pearl Bailey being a friend to Carmen when, you know, she herself could be her own Carmen because she's a hottie toddy herself and, you know, a very accomplished singer. So that is absolutely a fault of the film, and I do think that there is something to be said that it is a movie that has an all-Black cast and is using that as part of its progressivism, but behind the scenes is a mostly white enterprise. Like, I think that is still something that we deal with Hollywood. And so in many of those ways, he is absolutely correct. I think and I'm sorry, James Baldwin, where I disagree with him is I think also that he is viewing it through a very specific kind of lens, which is valid. But as like a modern day viewer, like he mentions talking about how he thinks that Harry Belafonte is desexualized. And I don't think that's true. I mean, there's a whole scene of him shirtless singing about how horny he is to a flower and, you know, blowing on Dorothy's fingers. But I think it's allowing Dorothy to be in control, but at that time it was seen as her being the vixen. So we're dealing with a lot of these contradictory sort of things about representation in the grander scheme of things, which is hard, and it's hard when a text asks you to do that much kind of work. So I get it. I get what he's saying. I don't fully agree with it because I think the net positives overdo the bad that he sees in it. Because I think if you're adapting a text that isn't about Black angst, I don't feel comfortable infusing more into it. I don't feel comfortable infusing angst into it when we have enough of that. And I think especially living in today's Black America, and living in any Black America, I don't think people necessarily want to see more trauma in their entertainment. And I think that Carmen Jones provides a brief respite from that, at least from the specific Black, white dynamics of trauma.
I just don't think it wouldn't improve the movie in any way to add that. I don't think so. Why do it?
Yeah.
But you know what this really does have a political opinion on? How shitty the military is. My God.
Yes.
I was following that. Like, fuck. They'll arrest you at the drop of the hat. They'll just cancel your leave and all. Man, that makes the military look like shit.
Here, just take this woman to wherever the fuck, and then, you know, good luck if you don't send her there, and be right back. Goodbye. I'm just like, what? I don't even understand how that's an assignment. Don't you have
It was an assignment because he wanted to steal the general wanted to steal his girl.
Yeah, Cindy Lou, shout out to her. Yeah. But like, who's trying to do all that for Cindy Lou? Like, oh my God, too much.
Cindy Lou deserved better. Like, honestly,
she did. She was literally coming to visit him, trying to figure out where he was, and then she sees the letter. Her face is like, I can't believe this motherfucker really did this shit to me, and I'm like, she really did. I'm so sorry.
Like, so much, like, her face as soon as she opens it up, like, she's like this bright-eyed, bushy tail, like, the face journey she goes on after opening that box.
She was disgusted, and she should be, because she was lovely and she was good, and Joe was a dumbass.
Joe might be one of the most frustratingly dumb characters in film history.
I don't even understand where he's coming from, like, for half of the movie, honestly.
When simping goes wrong, dude, like, he simped too hard, he went too close to the sun, and then he got bulldozed away. Like, he dipped his toe too much into ownership, and once he tried to own her, she was like, no, I liked it better when you were just thirsty, when I was thirsty and you weren't, but now you want it too bad. I can't really deal with this. And I was like, again, relatable content. Finally, someone is speaking out for the hot girls out there who are like, I don't really want
to be
all
wanted.
of this. Yeah.
Yeah, but then he has to go and ruin it by going full on murder. I mean, come on.
Right? I was like, dude.
No one can have you.
Bro, that's not cool.
Right? And it's just like, all Carmen wants to do is, like, she knows that she's gonna die because she draws that 9 of spades, and she's like, well, I'm gonna be cute and live my life. And it's like, you know, it is because she feels cooped up in this relationship, because he went AWOL and did all this dumb shit rather than just like, you know what I mean? It's like he just keep doing dumb shit and then be like, Carmen, why won't you like stay with me? And she's like, I don't want to be in this apartment all day long. It's hot. I want to go out and have parties and shit. Why would I want to be in this apartment with you?
This is my hot girl summer.
I love you because I love you.
And she's just like, but what about it? Like, I don't understand. Like, why did you think that this is what I wanted to do?
I was super
It's a
impressed
shitty
that,
apartment,
like,
too.
even when he was like in the military prison, she was like waiting for him. Like, yeah, Joe's getting out and he knows where to find me.
Yeah, and she's like, just go home. Like, she just tells him to go home. She tells Cindy Lou to go home. She's like, Cindy, please stop chasing this man, because I'm not even chasing him no more. It's fine. It's just
He ain't worth neither of us.
He really is not. And neither is the boxer guy, but she just is kind of like, whatever, you know.
He's always got the money. I mean,
He got money.
Song.
Yeah, she'll be paid, and she's just like, that's nice. If I'm gonna die soon, might as well enjoy it. And I'm like, I respect that.
I love it. I love this. I want to talk about these songs, but first we got to go into a mid-show, promote some shit. But don't worry, we'll be back. We'll be back to this. All right, let's go and go listen to this. Hey guys, today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, what's Patreon and who's donating to us?
Yo, Patreon's where you can like donate to us, bro.
Dude, you're so toasted, man.
Bro. Oh, but we got like commentaries up there. We got weird videos. We do every first Friday of the month. We got a whole meetup that you can come to with all of our fun guests. Come on.
You're missing out.
And then, I mean, come on, our current patrons, and listen to all these great names. You could be one of these great names.
Yeah.
We got, I'm going to mess them all up, but you could be one of these names. Melissa Goldman, Terry Needleman, John Donna, Leighton Ackles, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Tess Skier, Fire September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maniri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Christine Malmadel, Mary Lou Choquette, Jean Vanals, Heck You, I Go By Elijah Now, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, Andrew Van Barson, To Blam, Kyle Summers, Janae C, Christina Francis, Scoot in the Technicolor Green Coat, Liz Lim, Corey Wilmarth, Allison Stuller, Nothing Is Certain Except Beth and Taxes, John Vanals, Thespian, Ren Cullen, Wait in the Wings, Spectacle Machine, Jacob Stroop, Rafael Martinez Salas, Robert Benjamin, Rachel T, Jessica T, Genevieve Hartnett, Cass Ace. Is that right?
I think it's meant to be an emoji that just doesn't transfer anymore.
Oh, so just Cass. Mitchell Young, Shy Teacup, Hayden Wilder, Katie McDonough, Genki Geist, Stakas, Timothy Keys. Stackus, is that what it is? All right, Stackus. Timothy Keys, Jeffrey Machado, Jacques, is that right? Ten Van Essen, Jesse Taylor, and R. Elliott.
These guys give us money. You want to give us money too. We love having money. Bree loves getting paid occasionally. You can see Princess right now because she is totally here with us.
She's with us at this very moment.
She's doing backflips. Oh my goodness. You're missing out. Princess is just dancing. Like, you're missing all this cool stuff. You could see our faces if you were on our Patreon right now. In fact, Princess recommends you get on the Patreon. Isn't that right, Princess?
I recommend it. Highly recommend.
She said it. We got her to say it. We did.
We got her to say it. That's unpaid advertising.
Yeah. Princess.
Guys, what did I tell you about that? No unpaid advertising.
Damn.
She has performed free labor for us advertising-wise. It is excellent.
Thanks, man.
I do it out of love of the game because I actually really do like Jess and Andrew and Brianna a lot. So, like, listen to their podcast. It's really fun and neat, and not just when I'm on it. I swear to God.
But it's more fun and neat when she's on it.
I mean, that's just what the people tell me. I'm humble.
And of course,
That's good.
If you're on our Patreon, hopefully I can get her to agree to this right now. The first Friday of every month, we do have a live meetup.
Oh, boy.
And perhaps this upcoming month, June 4th, Friday, June 4th, Princess might be able to join us for one of these.
Let me see. I went to one before and I was very funny.
You were. This time it'll be
It's
less
true,
hectic
it's true.
because we'll have less people.
Less hectic. I can do that. You can now post that, share that.
June
Confirm
4th,
that.
We're doing it.
Princess will be there with us for our Patreon meetup. You can meet Princess.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it right here.
Hell yeah, I see it. We love you so fucking much.
I love you guys too.
All right, let's get back to the show.
Love's a baby that grows up wild, and he don't do what you want him to. Love ain't nobody's angel child, and he won't pay any mind to you. One man gives me his diamond stud, and I won't give him a cigarette. One man treats me like I was mud, and all I got that man can get. That's love. That's love.
All right, let's talk about these songs. Let's talk about That Love Habanera. You ever just watch something for the first time and just kind of know, like, that's iconic? That's how I felt when I saw this as a kid. Or, like, that dress, the way she's walking around like this military fatigue barrack, like it just felt like so beautiful, so vibrant, so colorful. Like even on like that shitty 4x3 TV that I 100% was watching this on Turner Classic Movies, I was like, this feels much bigger than just this scene alone.
I feel like what's so fun about all the songs is that everybody listening to this already knows all these songs, whether
Yes.
they've seen the show or not.
Right. It's like in every commercial.
They may not even know that they know these songs, but
Public
they do.
domain songs are that way. It's great.
I love it. No, like I already love this aria from Carmen and Hey Arnold, but like hearing it as we discussed before, iconic show Hey Arnold, now streaming on something, I guess.
Paramount
Anyway.
Plus, maybe.
Oh, ew, not them. But I think it's just a great song to introduce Carmen, and her outfit, like that black top and orange skirt. Bad bitch behavior. How dare she? It's like everything about what she does in this film, how she looks, how she moves, is just like, wow, she really did that shit. Like that's my response every time she like, she really did that. Queen.
Yeah, and she doesn't take shit from no one. Like, she is never put down at all throughout this entire thing. Everyone knows, like, when she's in the room, y'all better not talk no shit.
Right. And I love how, like, she escapes him, like, after, like, they do the flirt song. Like, she, like, escapes him, and then it's like, you hungry? And I was like, I've never felt more seen than in that moment where, like, she, like, outruns him. She's flirting with him, she escapes him, and he finally, like, runs his car into a ditch, and she's just like, are you hungry? Would you like some food? And then she takes him back home and cooks for him. I was like, that's how they used to do it back in the day. Just like, he stops chasing you, he's tired. You hungry? If Wile E. Coyote had tried that, he would have got the Roadrunner by now.
My God. Enemies to lovers trope, like, perfectly executed here. Like, you buy every bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's the next song that is worth going over here? We gotta move on.
Beat out that rhythm on a drama.
I tell you why I wanna dance. It ain't the sweetness in the music. I like the sweetness in the music, but that ain't why I wanna dance. It's something thumping in the bass. That thumping on the music. That bumping on the music is all I need to start me off. I don't need nothing else. Maybe I do, to start me on. Beat out that rhythm on the drum. Beat out that rhythm on the drum. Beat out that rhythm on the drum. And I don't need no tune at all. Beat me that rhythm on the drum. Beat me that rhythm on the drum. Beat me that rhythm on the drum. And I don't need no tune at all.
Is this the one that starts with the drum solo?
I believe it's part of it. Yeah, it's part of the drum solo.
In
which
the
is
notes,
great.
that percussionist is Max Roach, who's like a famous bebop drummer. Really cool.
That's incredible.
He's just in the movie for like 10 seconds, ripping out a sick solo.
I mean, this song is fucking sick. This is like my favorite song in the show.
Yeah, I just looked him up. He is one of the most important drummers in history, and he just was in this movie just for just to be there. That's so freaking cool.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel about like Diane Carroll in this movie, where it's just like, oh, you're here, and then like 30 years from now, you will be in the Star Wars Holiday Special. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my God, he was given a MacArthur Genius Grant in 1988.
Oh my God.
And is like one of the ministers of culture in France. He won and I don't respect the French, but that is good for them. Wow. He was so cool, and he's just here in this movie.
For literally, actually 10 seconds.
Ooh, he grew up in Bed-Stuy. I could walk by him right now. But yeah, that is so, he's so cool, and I love this song. I like that it's just this big ensemble piece, and I am very good that Frankie just gets to show off how good she is at singing.
Yeah, Pearl Bailey is a presence that is so powerful through this entire scene. And Mandy Patinkin sings this song a lot, which is also just a weird one. Like, he just pulls this out anytime he performs live, and it doesn't suit him at all. I don't know why he does that. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to spit that out for the world for them to just someone might tell him to stop singing this song. All right, what we got next? Do we want to do Stand Up and Fight, which is also another just iconic song where if you don't think you know it, you 100% know it.
How's it done? You ask me how's it done? I got a trainer man who taught me all I know. Sure feels good to have him in my corner. Hear his voice a whispering low. Big boy, remember, you must remember. Stand up and fight until you hear the bell. Stand toe to toe, trade blow for blow. Keep punching till you make your punches tell. Show that crowd what you know. Until you hear that bell, that final bell. Stand up and fight like hell.
The Troubadour song from Carmen. Yeah, it's like all of these are just such cereal box songs. Like something that has been in the background of so many other things. It just has so much good energy, and I love the introduction of Husky's character coming in through all of that. It's just so dynamic, and I was thinking about when we think about discussing it, because it's so different from other musicals where it really feeds the narrative. Whereas I feel the songs in here are just more about servicing this character is cool proof through this badass song.
Oh, it's an opera format, not really a music theater format, right?
Exactly, yeah. So
they just kind of give characters arias that are just yeah, this is this character. There you go.
Make your opinion now.
Basically.
I mean, it's great, but also gives everyone a moment to shine, and they shine so brilliantly every time. Even if they're dubbed, they kind of perform it so perfectly.
Yeah. What are your guys' opinions on dubs? In sort of this format, because we don't really do this anymore. But what did you guys think about it? Did you think it was effective?
I have said in the past when we covered My Fair Lady that I think dubs are perfectly fine thing to do.
I am very specifically if they're effectively chosen. you can't just dub with anyone. Like, I don't think Audrey Hepburn was particularly well dubbed in My Fair Lady, so it doesn't work. But I do think Minnie Driver was really well dubbed in The Phantom of the Opera, so I think that works so well that a lot of people don't even notice she's dubbed. Here, I think it's the same thing. Everyone's voice suits the speaking voice super well in a way that I'm like, yeah, that fits that voice and that character, and what you're speaking feels syncopatic with what you're singing.
The only person I might disagree is Joe. I don't know if the singing and speaking voice match up in this.
That bothers me, but only because I am so acutely aware of what Harry Belafonte's real voice sounds like.
Yes, that was the one thing. And like, I've heard his singing voice before, so I understand why they didn't want it in this movie. But yeah, he's the only one that sticks out because I just know what his voice actually sounds like. I really like dubs because I think like the Disney formula has worked so often. Like, sometimes the singing and speaking voice should be two different people, and I think that movies like this show that audiences don't really care, and that it can be done well if you just have, like you said, just as the right people are behind. And I think that nothing is lost from Dorothy Dandridge not being the one who's actually singing in this film.
I would rather watch a good dub than a terrible like live performance or something like that they try to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the musical. It depends on the content. Like, if like everyone in this is a singer, so if they were just doing a straight musical that wasn't opera, I feel like everyone would have done a very good job singing it.
But like, then you have like Les Mis the movie, and it's like, man, like half of these people can't sing at all. Why didn't you just dub?
Right.
I'm with you there. Like, Les Mis,
especially because they're just casting big names, which I think is kind of the downfall of like
which
a lot
is
of trying to
fine.
make these things. It's like,
If you want to cast big names, then do that, and you can have the star appeal, but then dub the voice. You know, like, come on.
but their egos. Think of their fragile egos, Andrew.
Oh
Are you
my
going to tell
God,
Hugh
they can
Jackman he can't sing?
They can take their egos to the bank with the big check they were going to give them. Like, my God.
Okay, but you got to be the one to tell Hugh Jackman he can't sing. I'd like to see you try.
You can't sing. Are you listening? He's not listening, I don't think.
He's not listening. you had to say it through Jared Trump's voice, or no, like Jared Kushner's voice.
okay.
I don't know if I can do that, but he can't sing. I saw him in Oklahoma. That's the best he's ever been, and he still couldn't sing in that.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and he's going to ruin Broadway single-handedly with The Music Man, maybe.
That is my nightmare. Sometimes I wake up in a cold sweat and I'm like, oh God, the music.
I don't know if he can do it because like Broderick couldn't ruin it. So,
I mean, Broderick. Okay, we're moving on. We can't open that ball of worms. Let's talk about the final scenes between like Carmen and Joe, like the final duet and "String Me High on a Tree." That moment where that felt like unlike any other time in this entire musical, where it is like sung dialogue, if that makes sense, where it properly becomes opera to me, as opposed to like a film with spoken dialogue and then an operatic aria, and then we kind of move on from that. This is where it becomes proper opera right here, or propera if you want.
Love you like I used to hold your hand in my hand and feel your heart next to my heart. Can we begin again? Couldn't we start all over? Couldn't we begin again? Bring me high on a tree so that
I think they did it because it's just more powerful that way.
It is.
There isn't really an aria here, so because they're more just telling the story.
There's a hint
here.
of one with like "String Me High on a Tree," which is like Joe's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, guess I've ruined everything. Damn my maleness."
Dang, how dumb I am.
I can't. How did this happen? It's like that Eric Andre meme. It's like when they shoot a person. How could Carmen have made me do this? You know, it's very much like encapsulating that sort of like forlorn Othello kind of like, well, damn.
Why did they make me do this? It's brilliant. It's great. It's very, very dark, but not like they don't linger is the thing. Like you see the hands hit the throat and then we cut away.
Yeah, it's more powerful that way too, because I could see someone really want to linger on that, and after watching A Promising Young Woman, I'm like, I don't really want to see that.
Oh my god.
What did you think of that movie, by the way?
I still don't really know. I liked it up until the end, where I was like, this is not the movie that I wanted or needed, and I don't think it really works. But I'm glad that she won that screenwriting award. Good for her. But I'm just like, this is not the movie that I was told it was going to be.
I like that final needle drop, though. That final needle drop did it for me, kind of. But I agree entirely.
Yeah, the scene I know you're referencing literally felt like a million years watching it. I was just like, please stop.
It was
Please?
in that moment I was like, this director is British, isn't she? And I looked it up and I was like, of course, because only a British person would totally like sell this movie as like a revenge fantasy film, and then it's like, oh no, sis, it not that, it not that at all.
Actually, that has a lot more comparisons between Promising Young Woman and Carmen Jones than I thought. Now that I'm really pairing it together, they're not that different of pictures.
Is Joe Bo Bergman's character?
Yes, he is a big dumbass, big old fucking dumbass.
How could this be happening to me?
What? How did I get here?
It's almost like I knew this was going to happen the whole time and did nothing to prevent it.
Men.
Still attracted to them. But yeah, I really find, and I think whenever I watch the end of the film, I kind of sit to myself and wonder, like, do I even like Joe and Carmen? And it's like, I think at the end of it, you sort of like realize that Carmen was always a character that's kind of meant to die, but it's always so hard to watch because that performance is so vibrant. And I think that really goes to Dorothy Dandridge as a performer, of really putting her all into making that character, because that character could be annoying, that character could be so many other things, but she puts a lot of heart and joy and thought into every gesture that makes her death really like, why? So it gets me every time.
And I like that it isn't, there are so many other ways you can take her autonomy away from her, even in these last moments, where she could just be like standing around and he's fighting with the other guy, a gun goes off and she just gets shot in the crossfire and she's just watching. No, she is an active participant in all the events that lead up to it, which makes it more powerful in a way. And she's not a bystander like kind of Christine in Love Never Dies, where she just happened to have been in the wrong place, wrong time, which I think also adds to its power.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's just fun to have. I always love an amoral character, and I like that she's like a morally dubious character. I like that she's like, people are like, she's ruined everyone's lives. I'm like, or did you just, let them be ruined because you guys are dumb and don't know how to not control a woman. So I was so excited that this was open, because I really enjoyed getting to rewatch this movie because of the singing, because of the performances, and just because it's just very quick. An hour and 45 minutes after having to sit through the prom, all of that, this was a breeze. I was like, oh.
This is an easy recommendation too. You just
guys,
go
after we
this.
talked about the prom, I tried to watch the prom and only got through half of it.
No, don't do that.
Why did you try to watch the bad one?
Yeah, there's videos everywhere of the good one. Come on.
We did a whole conversation on why the bad one you shouldn't watch.
I know, but it was on Netflix and we had just talked about it, and I tried.
Disappointed.
Watch Carmen Jones. Carmen Jones is wonderful.
Yeah, you'll probably have fun with this one.
I think that one's on
this was a
Prime.
good one.
So if you want to watch it for like free-ish, I think just go to Amazon Prime. Hell yeah. All right, guys. What is our overall thoughts on Carmen Jones and our cheese rating? I don't even have to start with Andrew. I can just start with Princess. Like, because she knows how we play games around here.
Oh my goodness! But what if I want Andrew to go first? I want to hear. I'm curious about what Andrew thinks.
Oh, sure. Carmen Jones was a pretty fun watch. I would recommend it. I don't really think there's much more to say. I think we've been pretty clear on why it's good. So, yeah, check it out. I'm going to give it the cheese rating. Carmen's Smoked Cheese. That's the one Jess had picked out. I know he did. So I'm going to give it that. All right. Princess, what did you think?
I love this movie, and I was really excited to talk about it. And I know it's often more fun to talk about things that we think are terrible because then we can rag on it forever. But it was nice to look forward about talking about something good.
Oh, you'd be surprised. It's not that fun to talk about terrible things.
When we do, and it's fun. But no, I really enjoyed watching it. It's such an easy, breezy watch. The performances are excellent. It really is a time capsule of possibilities, and I highly recommend it. I am going to give it, I actually got a very special cheese for it. It is this brie with truffles. It is a rich brie with black truffle cheese, because even though there's a lot of whiteness around it, that richness is still very much a part of the cheesy makeup.
That is one of our best cheese ratings ever. Like, Juliet, when you put these in our like spreadsheet, you gotta like put a note like this is one of the best cheese ratings ever.
Which I have that cheese in my fridge, and I bought it. I'm like, I'm gonna eat this after I do the Carmen Jones review.
Hell yeah. All right, Bree, what'd you think of our discussion?
I really enjoyed this discussion. I love when Princess is on the show, and I don't know, it's always just a really good time. I would love to see the movie Carmen Jones now, mainly because I was listening to the soundtrack as you guys were talking about the songs, and it was just wonderful and filled with so many great songs. And I don't know, now I just want to watch it. But it sounds like there's a sad ending. And
It ain't that sad.
what?
What?
I'm gonna be real.
Dad's love.
I'm gonna be real.
Love. Were you
I
watched, we were like,
I watched
man,
this
it
and then
sucks
I
that
watched
Joe gets
Dancer in the Dark.
arrested.
I watched Dancer in the Dark the next day, okay? It wasn't that sad.
Oh, damn.
But I was trying to think of like a sweet and sour cheese, but I couldn't find anything on Google. So I'm just going to give it cheesecake because I like cheesecake and I like Princess.
Thank you. You guys are so sweet.
That's so great. But I love Carmen Jones. I've loved it since I was a kid. I love it even more now. Like, this watch, like, this time was like such a joy and like a nostalgic trip for me. I adore this musical so much. I cannot recommend it enough. And the only cheese I was ever gonna give this is habanero. Because habanero.
That's fair. That's fair.
Come on. How did you all avoid that pun?
I'm making sure the mic picks up my claps. I really want it to hear that I...
Princess, you are one of the best guests we ever have. You always have a home here if you ever want to come back or anything. Like, literally, as soon as we're done recording, I want to plan the next time for you to come back. That is how great a guest you are.
You guys cover so many amazing musicals, but I will always be here if you guys need me. I really do look forward to talking with you guys, and I always leave like with my throat raw from laughter. So
that is the
best.
biggest compliment.
Best effort.
But thank you so much for having me again. It was truly a lot of fun, and now I'm very hungry for cheese, and I'm going to eat it.
Hell yes, but before you eat that cheese, promote your shit for people to find you.
Oh, yes. You guys can find me on Twitter at Weeks Princess, and you can find me on YouTube under the name Melina Pendulum. I actually have a video up about the song I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, going through sort of the pop culture history of bisexuality and biphobia in the industry. It's actually pretty good. It's doing pretty well. So if you guys want to check it out, something musical related, that'll be happening. And in my upcoming video about WandaVision, I have a lot of Into the Woods references built into that. So that'll be fun for this audience. It'll be coming up in the next coming weeks.
Mm-hmm. And I always try, whenever we have guests on, to recommend some of their content that I think I try to cater to the audience. And one of my favorite videos on the internet, not just all as you've made, just on the internet, is your Bridgerton video, which was just so fucking wonderful. And I just finished it the day that you posted it, and I was just like, yeah, this is incredible. I cannot recommend that video more, but of course, that I Kissed the Girl video, I watched that's one of those videos where you finish watching and then immediately take it back to zero. I'm like, all right, let's do this again.
That is such a compliment. Those two videos were super labors of love, and I spent a lot of time with my recorders working on it. But that means so much to me, because I really try to make stuff that I think people will enjoy and inform them, and it means a lot that you guys enjoy my work. Because you guys are awesome and so thoughtful and really good people to talk to. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know who else is very good people?
All of our patrons.
Our wonderful patrons. Thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese. We're on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals, Patreon Musicals with Cheese, Instagram Musicals with Cheese, YouTube page Musicals with Cheese. We have a Patreon-only podcast that we're currently talking about Gallivant on. Go check us out there. Our email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our title card is created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Follow her on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. This show is produced by the absolutely incredible, the beautiful, the wonderful, my best friend in the whole world, Brianna Jones. We love you, Brie. Our Breviews theme was created by Robin Nash of IOU Music UK. So thank you very much, Robin. You're amazing. Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform and for not kicking us off for, just being horrible, degenerate people.
Oof.
Princess, once again, thank you for joining us. It's a fucking blast. Thank you so much for having me. It is a party. This doesn't feel like work when you're here. And it often does feel like work. Just ask these two. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Subscribe, give them money, and love them so good.
Thank you very much.
Good.
And that's love. We'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.
Beat out that rhythm of the drum. Beat out that rhythm of the drum.
Wait, I gotta do my Mandy Patinkin. Beat out that rhythm of the drum.